Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, we're about to spectate a 1v1 on the map Arabia between my viewers as part of my weekly Twitch TV live streams. If you want to get in on this, you can find my live streaming schedule by going to my Twitch page and scrolling underneath the video player. And if you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, you will get updates on when I'm streaming next. So today's video is going to be a civilization matchup analysis, another one, this time between the Turks and Koreans, two civilizations that are generally considered to be around the bottom of the 1 versus 1 Arabia Civ tier list. I heavily encourage you guys to check the video description below for links to other civilization matchup videos I've done, as well as my Night Rush tutorial or anything else for your Age of Empires needs. Turks and Koreans, really looking forward to seeing how this one goes, especially because both these players are actually very good. So, let's dive right into this. During today's video, I'm going to be talking about the strengths and weaknesses of each of these civilizations and how their tech trees and unit choices match up against each other. Because a lot of the time in Age of Empires 2, you're going to need to adapt your strategy based on what civilization your opponent is, what options they have at their disposal, and what units they decide to make. At the start of the game, let's take a moment to introduce the players and their civilizations. We have in the green, Kigo playing as the Turks, and his opponent today will be Pete, playing as the Purple Koreans. Right off the bat, Kigo is pausing, that way he can turn on his map hacks and his keyboard macros. Of course, no, right now he just needs a moment to go do something. And yes, it's going to be Turks versus Koreans. So while we're waiting and the game is paused, I'm going to also take a brief moment to talk a little bit about Arabia 1 versus 1 tier list. What kind of metagame are we dealing with here? HD set my res to 600 by 800.
Yes.
So, what makes a strong civilization on Arabia? At least in the Conquerors, I would say that 4 of the top civilizations on Arabia would be the following. We have Aztecs, Mayans, Huns, and Mongols. What makes those civilizations so great on Arabia, and what makes these two less than stellar? It really heavily boils down to their early game economies are going to be a large factor here. Let's go down the list. Mongols 50% faster hunting. That's insane. You're going to, of course, want to lure your boar underneath your town center, and that just allows you to gain such an insurmountable lead in food early game. You're going to also want to take advantage of your deer. And then when you look at the Huns don't have to build houses. And this can be a bit of a double-edged sword in some fringe situations, because sometimes you'll want to use houses as a makeshift wall-off, but in general, though, you save so much wood over the course of your average game of Age of Empires 2 by not having to build houses that it makes them so strong on a map like Arabia. Early game, economy bonuses are everything. Of course, the faster working stables can also be quite nice for something like a scout rush. Aztecs being able to carry 5 extra resources with their villagers is also quite huge. This is a bonus I did not understand when I was a kid, but it so turns out that your villagers spend so much time walking that if they have to take fewer trips because they can carry more resources, that means that you have a very strong economy, and it certainly adds up over time. As well as the free loom in the Conquerors is also excellent. Basically means that you have another villager, because it takes the same amount of time to create a villager as it does to research loom. Mayans resources lasting longer is huge. It applies to all types of resources, except I don't think it applies to them fishing, but it applies to all their land resources. That's quite excellent, as well as the cheaper walls can also come in handy, the discounted archers, etc. So really, Arabia is an aggressive open map. The 2 types of maps in Age of Empires, open and closed. Open ones are harder to wall up on, and yeah, that's what Arabia is. And what that means is that early game rushes are quite strong, so you want to make sure that you have some sort of early game relevant bonus. This brings us to the Turks and Koreans, the 2 civilizations of today. What makes them so bad? Well, bad on Arabia. Actually, these civs can have some insanely strong late game, but their early game is just severely lacking. The Turks have 20% faster gold mining in the expansions on Steam, 15% normally, and the Koreans have faster stone mining. Both of those early game civ bonuses are absolute hot garbage, except the Koreans one they both have some merit, right? Look, the Koreans' faster stone mining can give them a reasonable tower rush, so that can be kind of nice. A tower rush on a map like Arabia can work out kind of nicely, and later on in the game, that allows you to get faster castle, it helps you boom a little bit, but it's generally considered to be absolute trash. And then we have the faster gold mining. So this is actually the better eco bonus of the 2, and that's really going to sway this civilization matchup, because with the faster gold mining, it helps you with your archer rush. It means that you get to assign fewer villagers to gold, and you're going to put that one villager elsewhere, which can be okay. It's significantly worse than the 4 top civilizations I just mentioned before, but it's certainly something, and it helps with their Night Rush, their crossbowmen. That gives them a better Monk Rush. The Turks, of course, have access to strategies that other civs don't do nearly as effectively, like the Fast Imperial Age, which I have a Break the Meta episode on, which involves you getting to the Imperial Age and then get to the Imperial Age extremely quickly, making significant cuts to your economy, taking advantage of your free chemistry. That means that, oh no, is he going to be able to get the elephant back in here? I'm going to put my camera back over here. I think he's got this. All right, no, never mind. All right, I'm averting my gaze. We're not going to look at that one. We're going to look at this elephant lord instead. The Fast Imperial Age thing, taking advantage of the free chemistry, allows them to go for early hand cannoneers and bombard cannons to really catch their opponents off guard. It's a strong strategy, but it's not going to come into play on a map like Arabia because you forfeit any sort of early game military and it's any early game defense. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Kigo. I don't know why the elephant aggro didn't end up quite working out, but it actually looks like he has somehow salvaged the situation. This is a very acceptable elephant positioning. It's not that far off from the town center, so he somehow managed to completely avoid disaster there, so well played on the part of Kigo. So we're not really going to see the Fast Imp Gunpowder Rush come into play, but we are going to see, though, some early aggression, and I almost guarantee that that's going to come from the Turks as opposed to the Koreans. But, of course, the Koreans did get a couple of changes. If we take a look at their tech tree real quickly, they actually have these fortifications that are built faster are how fast they build, but Age of Empires 2 is a game that no one plays for the good tooltips. The tooltips are terrible. The rest of these bonuses don't come into play that often. Like the better tower range is nice. The free tower upgrades, again, this just means that the Koreans as a civilization, if you want to play to their strengths, you're going to tower rush. But tower rushing is not always going to work. You need a map where, I mean, honestly, you drop a tower over here or something. It could work, but it's always risky business. It's very much all in. And I don't expect to see that from Pete here today. We don't really see him mining any stone either. Yeah, he's putting 2 villagers on gold. So we'll have to see what he ends up going for. He could still go for the tower rush if he wants to, but generally, though, I would expect the Turks to be the aggressor in this situation, because they do have the better early game. The faster gold mining opens up some strategies. It's significantly weaker in the Feudal Age, but in the Castle Age, they'll really pull ahead. Both these civilizations, though, are absolute late-game powerhouses. Why is that? That's because we do that test that I've talked about before, which is we look at their tech tree, we ask ourselves, do these civilizations have late-game, expensive gold-costing units? We usually look at the unique unit to get a good feel for that. The answer is yes. Janissary, I think, is 60 gold apiece, and then the War Wagon is absurdly expensive in its own right, so you need a very large economy to support them. They're clearly late-game units, even though the Janissary can see some Castle Age or early Imperial Age play. We also ask ourselves, what does their siege line look like? Do they have access to gunpowder units? Both of these civs have hand cannoneers, bombard cannons, and great siege. The Koreans have much better siege, though, and they have a much broader tech tree. So the Koreans have the stronger late game in this matchup, and the Turks have the stronger early game. This is really going to sway the way that both of these players play. Okay. All eyes on Pete, though. I'd really like to see what kind of build he goes for. Again, I would expect the Turks to be the aggressor here, to try and really press that advantage early on, because the Koreans are stronger late game. The siege onagers with the increased range, actually quite difficult to deal with. The Turks have bombard cannons, they have answers to it, but the Koreans are also better without gold, which means that the Turks in a 1 versus 1 are not so great. They need a trade line to sustain themselves. They do have an insanely strong, though, Imperial Age before they run out of gold, so there are going to be a lot of momentum swings in this game based off each player's tech tree. So it actually looks like he is going to go for a Men-at-Arms Tower Rush. So Pete is going to actually be the aggressor here. That's interesting. What is Kigo going to go for? Kigo's going to go for a Scout Rush. The Turks have a decent Scout Rush, especially once they get to the Castle Age. If they have any left over, they get free light cavalry. But it's not generally worthwhile, though, to heavily commit to Scouts just for that bonus. We'll have to see. This is going to be interesting. We're taking a look at both players' maps. I think that Kigo's map is pretty bad. His main gold is actually, oh yeah, ideally he would have walled over here, but I don't know if he knew about that. He actually has no safe gold at all, and this is a pretty nice nook for Pete to put down his first tower. He's going to go for the Men-at-Arms Tower Rush. This is a particularly strong strategy because when you're going for a Tower Rush, it's a huge blow to your economy early on, and it's fairly predictable for the Koreans to go for something like this. It's always an option you need to scout them for. They don't have to go for it, but it's very strong. So this is a good strategy because you are really forfeiting a lot of your economy here, so you probably don't have enough wood to easily go for an archer range or a stable, and this is fast. If you go for the men-at-arms, you're already going to have the barracks early on. You can make the militia while you're advancing to the feudal age, and then get men-at-arms immediately. A tower rush is really all about speed. You want to get in there before your opponent actually has too much static defense, too many military units, so you need to send your villagers over here preemptively, and the men-at-arms tower rush is actually a fairly strong strategy that's really picked up a lot of steam in the current metagame. It looks like, though, Pete will block off this side of his watchtower. That way it's going to be very difficult for Kiko to remove this without Kiko building his own watchtower, garrisoning some villagers in here to whittle it down. No way he can actually get to the base of this. Pete, though, is going to get repelled. Yeah, he did a reasonable amount of damage here, but since Kiko also went for a fast strategy by going for a scout rush, which is fairly common for the Turks, it's just an okay, decent opening for them. It's also better for the Turks, too, because the Turks have a good Castle Age stable. It's not great, but with the faster gold mining, they can go for knights, they can go for camels, and have a much better economy off of that. So scout's fairly decent opening, and then again, you can abuse the free light cavalry if it ever comes to that. So I would say this did not work out for Pete. He did force a little bit of idle time here on these villagers, but he lost a lot of food and gold on those men-at-arms. He had to research that upgrade too, and now the scouts are moving out. And the only reason that didn't really work out is because Kiko selected a fast strategy, because he thought he would be the aggressor. I think that Pete did show up very early, anticipating that the Turks would play aggressively here, going for those early game scouts. They can also transition to archers and save some gold, so that's really nice for them. He knew that Kiko would be the aggressor, so he tried to get in there quickly, but in the end, Kiko was able to hold the line. A couple spearmen here need to get into this wood line to try and defend against this, but Pete is not able to pull them back. Yes, they're just patrolling. Oh my goodness. A little bit of unfortunate control here means that Kiko does get a couple of villager kills, but Kiko is running too far underneath this town center, so the shoe is on the other foot. Both these players dealing with that HD ping. This tower, though, here's the thing. Pete didn't come out on top of this exchange in the short term, but he will over time. Once the tower range comes into play, we're coming to the Castle Age, the free tower upgrades, this tower will start to pay dividends. And that's another reason why Pete decided to go for a strategy like this and then wall this one off. Because once he gets the Castle Age guard tower +1 range, this wood line will get denied. That means Kiko has to rebuild a new lumber camp, 100 wood, down the drain, and then he also has to retask all those villagers. Meanwhile, Pete looking for another safe wood line, as this one was getting raided really heavily and it was also oversaturated, so he didn't want to build another lumber camp. But he's not going to be able to do that because scouts are going to come in here. However, Pete did build a couple spearmen as a nice response to this, so we're seeing how this matchup is shaping out actually fairly predictably. The Koreans opening up with towers, that's a thought. The thing is the Koreans playing... The Koreans playing defensively doesn't work that well because they might just keep falling further and further behind, and the defensive watchtowers are not that great, but they just want to survive, basically. So this creates a little bit of space, and in that sense, the best offense can be a great defense. By going for a tower like this, create some space, pick off some villagers, again, force this to be rebuilt. Yeah, Kiko is going to have to move those villagers preemptively in advance. Pete setting himself up for a fairly nice defense. We'll be able to hold the line here with a couple of spearmen. We figured that the Turks will go for the scouts, and this game should slowly start transitioning into the Castle Age. The question is which of these two players will get there first. My eyes are a bit on Kiko, as Kiko, when you go for scouts, it goes both ways, in that you're spending a lot of food, which will slow down your Castle Age timing, but you're also building a ton of farms, which will in turn speed it up. So if you're not making too many scouts, you're not committing to it too hard, you can actually get a very good Castle Age timing off of your early game scout rush. Yes, he is getting Wheelbarrow at a very appropriate timing, and his economy now is just in excellent shape. But he is committing to scouts, though. That's the interesting thing. Does he have Bloodlines yet? He does not. I feel like he has enough scouts in this game that Bloodlines would be a great value choice for him. And wow, he's on 2 stables. This is pretty nuts. Taking a page, perhaps, out of Young Doubt's playbook and going for mass scouts. But, I mean, he's the Turks, right? So he gets the light cavalry upgrade for free, but he has to get to the Castle Age first. So... this I don't know if I agree with, but we're gonna have to see how it turns out, because it honestly might be fine. It can easily go both ways. Yeah, he wants to apply a lot of pressure on the Koreans, because the Koreans don't have a strong economy to back this up. And also, in addition to that, Kiko will be able to use those 2 stables quite nicely once he hits him. The other reason why he's not doing this, by the way, is he has no gold. Like, he's just mining gold now at 19 minutes in. It's a very interesting build. But part of it's just due to the way his map is set up. His main gold is so unbelievably terrible. But I think he could have mined this earlier. He just wants to apply as much pressure as possible, and he knows that the Koreans, they're slow early game, which means them fairly vulnerable. The whole fortifications build faster thing, it applies to, like, what palisade walls, stone walls, outposts, gates, etc. I don't think it applies to castles. And I can't believe the tooltip doesn't actually specify the speed. So that's not that relevant, but it's a little something cute that the Koreans got. Kigo will get a free pick-off here, but he is housed just in kind of an awkward situation, because he's trying to get in here with these scouts, but at the same time, a couple of spearmen really just repels this almost entirely. No bloodlines out for him either, and he has to be very careful with his control, because his 3 hits from a spearman to actually take this down. But look at, see, God. Age of Empire is also very weird in that we see the spearman clearly stabbing him several times there, but the way attack speeds work, Pete actually canceled one of the attacks before it went off, and it would have actually killed that scout, but it's really tricky to get that right. Quite interesting, quite interesting. I feel like the double stable thing is not exactly what I would have done here, but it's really easy for me to say that as a spectator, of course, and this is more of a for future reference in your own games. I feel like transitioning into archers plus skirms would have been the way to go here. I think you still have the natural advantage, though, that's the thing, because you have the faster gold mining. I don't think you're that scared of the Koreans early on, and yet Pete kind of coming out on top of this exchange. He's got fletching and padded archer armor, so this watchtower is getting a little bit more threatening over time. This large army of scouts cannot take this fight, even though he has... I mean, they're going to be great versus those archers, but he has no upgrades on them, right? Yeah, no... Okay, he's got +1 defense, and he's got bloodlines now. Is he going to go for the mobility approach? We'll have to see. He's just going to need some skirms or something to pick off those spearmen or can't engage, and... Well... Now's the question, is Pete getting caught with his pants down, or is Kigo gonna get denied? And the answer is, it looks like Kigo's gonna get denied by a quick wall here. One of the strengths, though, of going for this mass scouts build... Oh, wow, he's deleting that. What? Wait, what? Did he mean to do that? I don't know why he did that. I think he just deleted his barracks? I think he thought that Kigo would, like, get in his base and he needed to get in there or something, or I don't know why he did that. Was that a misplay? I'm gonna have to ask him about that later. Okay, well, this totally shifts the dynamic of what was otherwise an excellent quick wall. So one of the strengths of going for mass scouts, and we saw it in the Doubt Break the Meta video, is that even though they're so easily countered by spearmen, you can actually bypass your opponent's army entirely, exploit that better superior mobility, and just kind of kite them around. He sort of baited Pete into the middle of the map, and then he ran around him and tried to go straight to the base, because Pete would not be able to get back there in time to defend. Except he got denied with a quick wall, and then he actually got in the base somehow. So even though Pete had a fairly large advantage, now I would say the game is kind of evening out. But Kigo has to be careful. Did he box himself into a corner? Because look at the way Pete set his base up. You always want to create a makeshift funnel, create a choke point, oh my god, he's going to get trapped. This is an excellent play here from Pete. Look at the way he set his base up. It's always a trap. These scouts are going to take so much damage, and with that, Kigo is going to be so far behind. 80 food apiece. God, he's going to lose so many of those scouts, and yet he's still trapped in here. Oh my god. What an emotional roller coaster. But he didn't lose all of them, though, because the scouts are fast enough. Interesting situation here. But the good news is Kigo is buying some time, and I guess this is the other aspect of this build is, yes, it seems like he slowed down his castle time a lot, and he did by heavily committing to scouts. He's going to pick off some villagers, though. He knows that the scouts are probably not going to get away. It's a shame. I wanted to see some insane light cav value, but that's really not that strong of a bonus. The difference in stats is not that huge. You still die to... You still die to knights, you still die to camels. So, we're coming into the castle age here. He had so many villagers on food, so he should be able to do this. And now, you want to ask yourself, though, as the player who went for mass scouts in this situation, this is a mistake I see pro players make a lot, too. Do you have too many villagers on food? Do you want to start transitioning some of them into other units? And we're going to have to see. But it looks like he's going for 3 stables. Absolute madman. This can't possibly be right. There's no way he can afford to sustain production from all 3 stables, but I admire that. I admire that. Of course, these are plays that I would expect to make myself in these games, but as an outside observer, I don't think that 3 stables is... You can't possibly sustain production from that. Very interesting to see him going for such a mono-cavalry build as the Turks. And one of the reasons why I think he's going for this is because he doesn't get elite skirmishers, which also sways this matchup in some weird ways, really warps it. This is actually a very interesting matchup we never really see in pro play. And another thing about this matchup that's also fascinating is that the Turks have camels, but the Koreans don't. And this means that the Koreans are even less likely to go for knights in the castle age than they normally would. They're already kind of unlikely to do it because no bloodlines, but and the Turks do, but because of camels, I think that makes it significantly weaker. And that also means as well, without the bloodlines, we expect fewer early game scouts from these guys, and I feel like Higo's strategy was heavily warped by the way his gold was set up, but I think that once he repelled the tower rush, he could have mined that gold anyway. I want to see some knights. I think the third stable was just not going to work at all for him. Does he have +2 defense? He does not. He's going for light cav. Again, that doesn't really make any sense to me. These could be knights. These all could be knights. But he wanted to make some military units, I guess, while he was waiting for the Castle Age. And now Pete has some serious upgrades on his guard tower, which is going to make this a great little fallback point for him. That little damage does add up over time. Still making light cav. See, I don't get this. I feel like this should be easier for me to say as the observer, of course, but there we go. He canceled a light cav. I think he's making a knight. Because if you have the resources, because clearly food is a problem, and he has all this gold in the bank because he's the Turks. Well, now is not the time to engage, though. This could be a huge mistake. I really feel like he does not have enough military units here. I don't know why he's taking this fight. But, well... yeah, no, I still don't think he has enough military units. No, I keep second-guessing myself. This is a losing fight. This is like a game-losing fight. God, because you can see that the battle was not honestly that once, or at least it could have been close. But Pete, not born yesterday, not with those wrinkles. You're just going to back into this corner. What you want to do when you have an army of ranged units versus melee units, assuming your opponent does not have a mangonel, because then the dynamic shifts entirely, you want to clump your units up as much as possible, back them into choke points so the melee units can't get this around. And we see exactly that's what Pete did there. That is an absolute terrible engagement here for Higo, unfortunately. He was looking so strong, running around Pete, and even Pete letting him into his own base. Higo making some great plays early on, but I feel like that engagement was just premature, and if he just waited for a couple knights to come out, he did not need to take that fight. He just didn't, and I think he's under a lot of pressure. I also think that he is actually able to sustain production from these, but look how low his population is. Higo falling a little bit apart here. We're not going to see how these two civs match up in the late game, but this is a 1 versus 1 Arabia, and generally speaking, you're not going to really see those things come into play here anyway. Early on, it boils down to these eco bonuses, little things that set these civs apart in the early game where things are so similar. He might be able to somehow claw his way back out of this, but I think it's going to take a mangonel. If he gets a single mangonel shot, it's a great comeback mechanic here. He just doesn't have any villagers really gathering food to make these knights work. I think this could have been a market, for example. This could have been anything. I understand why he wouldn't go for the archer range, though, feeling like he can't really compete because the Koreans had so many more archers at that point of the game, but yeah, like to see a Siege Workshop, like to see Mangonel. He's going to engage here. I think Pete is going to take a lot of damage for free. He's going to make a great play deleting this house. That way he can deal more damage to these crossbowmen, but he has to be careful about how these guys path around. But again, damn, he could have won that fight earlier on if he just waited to take that engagement. I think Higo is absolutely out of the game at this point. But otherwise, I think this is a really interesting game to watch, and hopefully you guys get to see how these civs match up. He could have almost taken that one down. GG, well played. Pete gonna take this one by going for the crossbowman build. We saw Higo going for like a mono cavalry build. It almost worked, honestly, but a couple unfortunate engagements did end up taking him out of the game. As well as Pete with some fairly good defense. Again, if you're the Koreans and you know that you're gonna have a weaker early game, you're going to want to build a defense like he did, with a nice little makeshift wall off like this. Honestly, his map was not that great either. His main gold was better, but this is a very expensive, wide wall, and there's also a hill here at the front, so it's not like it's great for him. There are multiple points where he could have been pressured. His map is okay, but his main gold is much better. Higo's map was certainly just significantly worse in that regard, but, you know, lack of early gold mining, and then that fight right there did end up closing out the game. So GG, well played. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this one. If you did, plenty more Civ matchup analysis videos on my YouTube channel. Feel free to search for those, as well as expert games, tutorials, and gameplay videos for all your Age of Empires needs, as well as videos for other games. I do play a wide variety of games, strategy and whatnot. So hopefully you guys enjoy those as well and show your support. It's much appreciated. It helps keep the channel afloat. So, GG, well played. It was a fairly close game, honestly, until, you know, around that engagement. We see, though, that Pete did have a bit of an eco lead, but overall, this game was only decided at the very end. GG, well played. Thank you so much, Sysmon ASD, for subscribing. Great to have you. Thank you, thank you. I may have missed a few resubs from Assassin for 21 months, Jay Pence for 17th. He says, congrats on the new job. That's fantastic news. JK, he says, now you don't need my sub money anymore. JK, I'll remain sub. Well, thank you so much, J-Pounds. I think Engineer My Horn also sent me 29 bits. Thank you, Engineer My Horn, and 1 bit. So he sent me 30 total. TK the PK for 15 months. But I think I already thanked him. Much appreciated. P says he channeled his inner slam. Don't worry, Kigo. We will do another one of these in the not horribly distant future. Great to see the lower tier civs match up against each other on Arabia. There are a lot of different dynamics at play there. Well, thank you so much for watching the live stream today, guys. As always, I'd love to have you. Feel free to check out the rest of the stuff on my YouTube channel. If you're looking for more Age of Empires 2 action, there's 615 videos as of me recording this, so you got plenty of stuff there to keep you occupied before the next live stream. I do live stream every week. Find the live stream schedule by scrolling underneath the video player on my Twitch page, and if you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, it also makes it a lot easier on you to know when the next one's coming. So, hey, Thirsty Fox, good to see you. I think Harambe's jungle is. I don't even know what kind of map that is. I mean, I can show you real quickly. I don't know why I have it. I feel like that's from Cheese on Toast or something, but I don't know what kind of map Harambe's jungle is. If you really want to see it, it's fine. Hey, Adam the Rabbit, good to see you, man. Oh God, how did I get this map? So many macaws. When did I get this map? Oh my, that's Furious the Monkey Boy. I hate that I can't select neutrally unless I'm spectating. This map looks terrible. Alright, I guess we'll have to stream it at some point. You got horses. I hate scouting with horses. When did I get this map? Well then, maybe that's something we'll do later. That sounds absolutely terrible. See you, Gahakam Goofy. Year of the Bows, that's what's the best way to deal with an archer rush in the feudal and castle age. It really depends. If absolutely necessary, defensive watchtower to protect your wood and or gold can help, but that's kind of last resort. Defensive skirmishers. Skirmishers are a great, really the best way to deal with that in the feudal age of skirms. Scouts can be okay, but we saw, in that match that spearmen can be a really good answer to that. So skirmishers in the feudal age. In the castle age, a mangonel is your best answer. Elite skirms can be okay, especially in the expansions where the tech is cheaper. Knights can be okay, but not when the crossbows are so massed. So mangonels are your best answer. Castle Age, skirms, and the feudal age. Thank you, Flu Crew, for tuning in, as well as Buzz Salty, Exist the Fallen. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jangology. Much appreciated. Yeah, I don't know if that map is playable at all. As much as I like to do the gimmicky meme maps, some of them no one wants to play, but maybe we'll do it anyway. Harambe's jungle is full of OG Gaia Furious the Monkey Boy, says the Black Winds. The script was supposed to make them all hostile to all players, but it doesn't work in HD. Oh. So people just convert them? Yeah, that doesn't sound playable, but that sounds very funny as a thought. Thirsty Fox says, congrats on the new gig. Looking forward to seeing what great things you folks at Outpost come up with. Thank you so much, Thirsty Fox. I expect the initial versions of our platform to need some significant iteration. But that's where you guys come in to help give feedback. But of course, I'm not going to bombard you guys with Outpost stuff. So yeah, be honest with the feedback and whatnot. We're not going to get everything right the first time. But over time, though, of course, we create something amazing. Really enjoying the job so far.